Hello and welcome back, Lady Joyful here, and I'm so glad you could join me today for my 10 cards 1 kit video with the Love From Lizi April card kit. I actually managed to get 14 card bases from this card kit. I turned the pearlized cards into card bases as well. This video only has 10 cards and I will have another video coming hopefully in a few days with the other 4 in it. So for this first card I am using the Wooden Smile sentiment, and I pressed my embossing ink pad into it and am coating it with silver embossing powder. I believe I did 3 layers of embossing powder just to get a nice smooth effect, and then I wanted to pair it with the pattern paper with the large camera on it, so I'm trimming down that piece of pattern paper to be just a bit smaller than my card base. For this card I'm using the dark grey pearlized card base. I thought it would help pull out the silver of the sentiment. I decided to edge the pattern paper with some more silver heat embossing just to give it a very slight border. It's a very subtle effect, but I think it helps it stand out from the card base a bit more. And then I can adhere the pattern paper to the card base, making sure it's nice and straight before pressing down and removing the rest of the backing paper. And then I'm using just some craft glue to adhere the wooden piece over the camera onto the card base, and I put just something heavy on top of that for a little while to let it set, and then that completed card number 1. Card number 2, I'm using another one of the large patterned papers, and this is really the focal point on this card. I don't actually add anything else at all. So I began by measuring it out because I wanted to try and keep the image central on the card, and then once I am happy with the measurement I will trim off the top and the bottom to start with, and then very carefully along the edges because the butterfly wings actually go slightly wider than the width of the card base. So I'm going to trim along, leaving the wings overhanging the edge of the card slightly. And then I will take my scissors and I will fussy cut around the wings on the outer edge. I'm only cutting around the wings, not the body. And then I originally was only planning on cutting out those outer wings, but I decided to do the inner ones as well, so I used my craft knife to carefully go around those. The idea being that once they're all cut out, the wings will lift up away from their bodies and away from the card base, giving just a little dimension to the image. And again, I'm using one of the pearlized cards as my card base. This time I'm using the black one. I thought it would look nice behind the wings of the butterflies. So I'm adhering my pattern paper panel to the black card base, and then to help maintain the dimension of the wings, first I'm lifting them back up, making sure that none of the glue I used to adhere to the card base has got behind the wings, because I don't want them to stick down flat. And then I am using a black foam square behind each of the wings, just to give them some dimension. I'm using black squares because I had the black card base, so it makes them less obvious than if I'd used a white one. So that finishes the second card. For the third card I'm using a blue card base and I'm putting some stripes along the bottom using the glitter peel-offs. I have 2 different sizes of peel-offs, so I have 5 stripes, and the first, third and fifth one are narrow peel-offs, and then the other 2 are wider ones. And then I put double-sided tape on the back of the 3 envelopes and adhered them across the stripes. I added 3 little butterflies as if they are flying out of the envelopes, and then 3 little word stickers from the sticker set. And that completed that card. That was quite a quick one. Card number 4 is a bit more involved than the last one. I'm adhering the little flowers onto the tags using some craft glue. I put 3 flowers on the larger tag and 2 on the smaller one. Then working on my card base, which is a black card base, I adhered a strip of the burlap ribbon across the card base. I just used double-sided tape to adhere that. And I'm going to adhere the black ribbon over the top of the burlap, a layered look. I then threaded some of the narrow black ribbon through the tags and adhered them to the card base. I also adhered the tops of those ribbons into place so that they wouldn't be flapping around. Then I'm adding the wooden hello sentiment, and I didn't emboss or colour this one because I liked the natural look with the natural looking elements on this card. Completes that one. Card number 5, I decided to make a shaker card using the glasses from the ephemera. So I'm starting by using glossy accents to adhere the spectacles to some acetate, and then I'm fussy cutting away the excess acetate once it has dried. I then picked a scrap of pattern paper to go with the glasses, and I should have actually drawn around them before adding the acetate, because then I could have just drawn around the open area in the middle. So I'm cutting away that open area so that I can adhere the glasses over the top, again using glossy accents, and that it will be possible to see through them still. The reason I did it this way was because I felt the glasses themselves were a bit too narrow to hide my foam tape behind, and this way it doesn't matter if it's a bit wider because it's hidden behind the pattern paper panel. So I'm using some foam strips all around the holes that I had cut, and I'm actually making 2 separate shaker wells here. I then took the sequins that came in the kit, and I'm picking out some of the smaller ones because the shaker wells are quite small, and putting them in there. And then adhered another piece of pattern paper to the back. I'm just trimming away the excess because I don't want it to show anywhere other than through the glasses. I picked a larger piece of pattern paper to be my base panel for this card, and I laid some blue ribbon across that and adhered the shaker panel over the top, and then I'm adhering the ribbon on the back with some double-sided tape. I used another snippet of pattern paper to make my sentiment panel, and that's stamped with stamps from the kit. I'll trim it down, and before I adhere it to the card base I noticed that my shaker panel was slightly off centre, so I took one of the tab stickers and added that to the left hand side just to help even it out a bit, and then I added the sentiment strip along just under the shaker panel. I felt it still needed something a bit more, so I decided to add some peel-offs, so I added peel-offs all on the shaker element as well as along the top and bottom edges of the sentiment panel. I then adhered the whole panel to a yellow card base. I thought yellow picked out the yellow elements that are on the panel, and that completes card number 5. Card number 6 is a simpler one. I'm starting by stamping the word left from the stamp onto a snippet of pattern paper, and I'm using the die to cut it out. And the frame portion I decided to heat emboss with clear embossing powder to give it a kind of plasticky look. I thought the frame looks almost like a belt buckle, so that's how I'm going to be using it on this card. First I'm adhering this cut part onto a panel of pattern paper, and I'm using my craft mat to make sure I get it straight. I decided to edge it with the glitter peel-offs just on the left and right hand sides. I then laid my ribbon across and adhered my loved panel over the top of the ribbon, adhered the ribbon to the yellow panel, and then attached the little belt buckle and added it all to a card base, which completes card number 6. For card number 7 I'm using one of the large card front sized cut parts. I stamped "You Are Amazing" onto it, and then I'm adding again a kind of belt using a snippet of pattern paper along with a black buckle cut with the frame die. I then adhered the panel to a blue card base, and I managed to get it ever so slightly wonky. I do still sometimes struggle to adhere things down straight. As the cut part is slightly narrower than the card base, there is some blue of the card base showing on the right hand side, and I decided to add a strip of black ribbon along that side. and I'm just adhering it on the inside with some tape. Then as a final touch, I'm using the Nuvo drops to add some embellishment to the centre of the flowers as well as around the sentiment. And I tapped on the back just to even the drops out, and that completes that card. For my next card, I wanted to use the butterfly pattern paper. I really liked the look of the butterflies, so I'm adhering a large panel of that to a green card base. And I did manage to get this one more or less straight for a change. I then took the cut apart with the scripty words and the butterfly on it, and I'm edging that with the peel-offs to give a glittery edge to it, and I will adhere that to my card base on foam tape just to give it a little dimension. I took one of the sentiment ephemera pieces and adhered that just below the butterfly, and I thought the green tied in nicely with the green card base. And then as a final touch, I'm adding some of the Nuvo drops just around the image. I had 3 little areas of Nuvo drops, which completes this card. For card number 9, I decided I wanted to use the cut apart with the bicycle on it. So here I'm using the white pearlized card to make my card base. I added the black and white banner along the bottom of the card, and I am adding peel-offs just to edge the top of it, and I don't need it to go all the way across because my focal panel will be over the top, so I was able to use just some of the smaller leftover bits of peel off just to get either end. I decided to cut down a piece of the raindrop pattern paper to mat the bike onto because I felt it needed something a bit extra rather than just being directly on the card base. I gutted the centre of that panel so that I could use it for something else, and then I used my glue pen to adhere it over the top. I added some double-sided tape to the back of the panel, and then I'm adhering that onto the card base, slightly overlapping the black and white area, and just making sure it's straight before I press it down properly, which completes card number 9. So my final card, card number 10, I decided I would try and use up some of the snippets that I had left. So I'm using the pink pearlized card base here, and I started by adhering a piece of floral pattern paper across it. I then took another piece of pattern paper, a kind of plainer creamy colour, and I embossed it with the embossing folder that came in the kit, and I'm laying that over the floral panel. Here I have some of the raindrop pattern paper. I think this is the part I gutted away from the last card, and I've edged it with the peel-offs. I adhered that panel with foam tape, and then I adhered my banner ephemera with foam tape over the top of that to give some more dimension, which finishes the last of my cards. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and you can subscribe both to my channel and the Love From Lizi channel by clicking the buttons on screen. There are more videos here that you may enjoy, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments or over on social media. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!